So you've done the work, the therapy, the boundaries, the breakthroughs. You feel clearer, stronger, more like yourself. And then out of nowhere, shame shows up, or grief or anger. And your first thought is like, wait, why am I back here? What if you're not back at the beginning, but deeper than you've ever been? Welcome back to Women on the Brink. I think one of the most disorienting experiences that I've had recently is when you've done the work, you've had the insights, you've set boundaries, you've had breakthroughs, and you feel really strong and clear and more like yourself. And then out of absolutely nowhere, one of those old emotions show up, like shame. That's what it was for me, or grief or anger or any of those old familiar, I call them lower frequency emotions, okay? And your first thought is like, wait, what am I doing back here? And let me just say this. I mean, you're not back at the beginning. You're actually deeper in the work than you realize. That's what I discovered. Because here's what no one really tells you. Crossing that courage threshold, becoming more honest and more aligned and having all that self-awareness doesn't mean that these emotions disappear. It just means that you start to meet them at a different level. So, those emotions under what people call the 200 level. Remember we talked about this before, courage. Every emotion has a frequency. When you hit 200, 200 is the courage frequency. So the emotions that we're going to experience above that 200 mark are the more positive ones, like, you know, love and acceptance and freedom and all the things that we want to feel. And anything below that is shame, guilt, fear, grief, anger. And yeah, those all hover at a level below 200. So they don't vanish. I mean, they don't go away. They kind of cycle, they resurface. And sometimes they just seem to come out of the blue. Maybe something triggers it. But it's so unexpected that you're going to have that very acute response to it. Because, yeah, the truth is they're not random and they just feel that way because you're no longer living as close to them as you used to. So when they do come up, it's quite jarring. So here's what's actually happening. So the first thing is you've reached a new layer because growth isn't linear, it's layered. You don't heal something once and it's gone forever. So you meet it and then you meet it again from a more expanded version of yourself. Same emotion, different depth. And, you may initially have the same response to that trigger, but it may not last as long as it did before. Or you may go, hey, ooh, that's still there. Ouch. But maybe there's some different tools to handle the way that emotion lands. The second thing that's actually happening is your nervous system is catching up. So you may have mentally crossed into a new way of being, but your body takes longer. So an old emotion response can fire before your new awareness steps in. And I mean, this doesn't mean you're failing. It just means your system is recalibrating. And then the third thing that happens is something new is asking to be seen. Sometimes the old emotion isn't old at all. Maybe it's current. So, it's a new boundary that hasn't been set, a truth maybe that you didn't fully acknowledge, or a misalignment that's just subtle enough to ignore until it isn't. And here's the fourth thing that's happening. You're safer now to feel it. So this one was really big for me. When we're in survival mode, we don't have the capacity to feel everything. But now that we're out of survival mode, you can feel more. So these emotions that were once suppressed start to come up to the surface. And not to derail us, but just finally because they can have a voice. And, this is where women often turn on themselves. They think, oh, I should be past this, or I thought I healed this already, or what's wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. What is actually happening is that you're no longer bypassing yourself. So let's come back to these emotions for a moment, not as low, but just as messengers. Shame still shows up. It's asking, are you making yourself wrong again? Guilt, are you carrying something that isn't yours? Anger, where did you override a boundary? Fear, do you trust yourself in this next version of your life? That's a big one. Grief, what are you still honoring even as you move forward? So these emotions don't come to pull us back down. They come because they still need fine tuning. And here's the shift. Before, these emotions used to run my life. Really, they did. I would be in that, emotional loop. And now I feel more like they visit. They come knocking and get my attention. And if I listen and I pay attention and I sit with it and I go back in, and it's not easy sometimes, but if you listen, they actually move. That's the difference. So maybe the next time something comes up out of nowhere, instead of thinking, oh God, I'm back here again, maybe try this. Just say, I've met this before, but I've never met it as this version of me. Because that's what growth really truly looks like. It's not a clean upward line. It can be a spiral when you come back around and with more awareness, more capacity, and more honesty. So that's not regression, that's actually evolution. So if you're feeling something heavy today, something you thought you were done with, like try not to panic. Don't make it mean you've undone your progress. Just get curious with it because there is still intelligence here. This is still something being revealed, and you're probably far more equipped to meet it now than you've ever been before.